Donald Trump's chances of winning the 2024 election have risen again to an insane 58%. Today, we'll be taking a look at what's been behind his incredible rise as Kamala Harris's campaign continues to falter. Just 3 weeks ago, she was the favorite to win the election, but today, Trump has taken a commanding lead. And so we're going to take a deep dive into the 11 most competitive races on this map. We're not going to focus on all the solid and likely states. I mean, really, Donald Trump is unlikely to win states like New Hampshire and Maine. Kamala Harris has no chance in states like Iowa and Ohio. So we're going to focus on Polymarket's forecasts in these 11 states that are not shaded in, as these are the races that will actually decide the election. And in these states, we've seen a ton of movement. I mean, just look at Michigan, for example. Donald Trump's chances of winning the state went from 33% 3 weeks ago. Now he's at 54. And so returning to the map, we're going to begin in Nevada, where Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have exactly the same 50% chance of winning the state. Nevada couldn't be more of a toss-up. Kamala Harris has been leading throughout most of the last 2 months, but today, Trump officially caught up, and Nevada is a pure toss-up between the two nominees. If you look at the polling average, Trump has actually pulled ahead. He leads by 0.5%, with the most recent Wall Street Journal poll having him up by 6 points over the vice president. That really is very significant, especially as the Wall Street Journal is a left-leaning pollster. And if we look at the graph, Kamala Harris has been ahead since the end of August. She lost her lead just a few days ago, but Trump being ahead in Nevada is a pretty big deal. No Republican has won this state since 2004, but Trump very well could be the first to flip Nevada in 20 years. And so it's going to be tilt red on the map, considering that we do have a tie in the betting markets, and the polling is going to decide the state in Trump's favor. Next up in Arizona, Trump is the clear favorite. He has a 68% chance of winning a state he didn't even win in the last election. In fact, Biden flipped Arizona in 2020, carrying it by 0.31%. And what's really incredible is that Trump's odds in the state right now are just as high as they were right before Biden dropped out in mid-July. Democrats went through all the trouble of replacing their nominee at the top of their ticket with less than 4 months to go until the election, and today, Kamala Harris is performing even worse than Joe Biden was before he left the race. I mean, that is just abysmal on the part of the Harris campaign. If we turn to the polling, things don't get any better for the vice president. Trump leads by 1.1%. This is one of 3 states where Trump leads by 1% or more. In fact, the most recent New York Times poll has the former president leading by 5. Trump's always dominated polling in Arizona. There was only a very short period of time during the Democratic convention when Harris took the lead, but the polling does suggest that the former president is on track to win Arizona back, and according to the betting markets, it is going to be a lean Republican state. Next up in Texas, there's no doubt that Trump is going to win the state for a 3rd time. We do have a competitive Senate race there with Ted Cruz on the ballot. He isn't always the best performer. He simply isn't that popular in his home state, but on the presidential level, Trump is the clear favorite. He has a 91% chance of winning Texas. 4 years ago, the polls had Trump winning the state by 1% on election day. Ultimately, he won the state by nearly 6 times that margin. And today, Trump already leads by nearly 6 points. When all is said and done, he is going to win Texas by nearly a double-digit margin, or potentially even 10 points or more. And so Trump should have no worries in Texas, even if Kamala Harris is trying to spend money there, trying to make it competitive. She has absolutely no chance. And so the Lone Star State is going to be likely red for Donald Trump. He is going to easily carry it once again. Moving up now to the Midwest, we have 4 states Kamala Harris absolutely must win: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. She can't lose even a single one of them, and after we fill them in, you'll understand why she is in such a precarious position. And so we're going to begin in Minnesota, where Kamala Harris made a huge mistake. She should not have chosen Tim Walz to be her running mate. It should have been Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. He probably would have been able to help Harris win the Keystone State, which is by far the most important state on the map. Now, Tim Walz is going to help Harris win Minnesota, but this is a state no Democrat has lost since 1972. It should be a state they have in lock. But today, Harris has just a 91% chance. She leads by less than 5 points in the polling, despite Joe Biden having won the state by 7% in 2020. And so yes, Walz is going to do good enough to make sure that Harris will win his home state, but he's not going to provide anything else. He's not really giving Harris a boost in neighboring Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania, which is what she really needed. Before I continue, nearly 3/4 of you guys are not subscribed, so please take the time to subscribe right now for more content like this leading up to the election in November, and join my Discord server to chat with me personally. Link in the description below. Moving on now to Wisconsin, a lot of people thought that Harris would be able to win this state as well as would be able to help her out in Minnesota's neighbor, but that is no longer the case. At one point, she did have a 60% chance of winning, but today her odds have fallen down to just 47. In fact, Trump took the lead a few days ago for the first time in over 2 months. Basically, throughout all of August and September, Kamala Harris was the undoubted favorite to win Wisconsin in less than a month, but now with just 20 days to go, Trump is surging at the perfect moment. Looking at the polling average, this is the only battleground state where Harris leads. She is behind in every other one. However, her lead isn't going to last very long. Trump is probably going to take over in the next few days. The 3 most recent polls show a tie, but polling in Wisconsin has been known to be incredibly inaccurate in terms of overestimating Democratic support. I mean, in 2016, Hillary Clinton was on track to win Wisconsin by 6 points based on the polling. Spoiler alert, she lost the state entirely. In 2020, Biden was supposed to win by 6.3. He won it by just 0.6. And so Harris may technically have a lead. Nobody thinks she is actually winning. That is why Wisconsin flipped in favor of Trump on Polymarket. And so on our map, it is going to be tilt Republican. In Michigan, I have an even more interesting graph to show you guys. I mean, just look at how far Harris has fallen. She went from nearly a 70% chance, that's more than 2 in 3 odds, down to just 46. Trump also took the lead in Michigan for the first time in over 2 months. Just a few days ago, he's become the clear favorite in what has been the most liberal of all the swing states. None of the battlegrounds voted for Biden by a larger margin than Michigan, which voted blue by nearly a 3-point margin in the 2020 election. Looking at the polling average, Trump leads by a whopping 1%. And yes, that is significant. I mean, just look at 2016. Clinton was supposed to win the state by 11.4. It was not even supposed to be close. In the end, she lost Michigan entirely. Joe Biden also heavily underperformed expectations in 2020. Looking at the graph, Michigan was supposed to go to Harris for basically all of August and September going into early October, but Trump is now the favorite. The betting markets are reflecting that, and if Trump wins Michigan, it is absolutely game over for Kamala Harris. The state is also going to be tilt red on our map, with Trump at a slight advantage. And then in Pennsylvania, if Trump could win here, the election is basically over. Trump doesn't need Michigan, he doesn't need Wisconsin or Nevada. All he really needs is Pennsylvania. And looking at the odds, he is the favorite with a 56% chance of winning. He's been ahead basically since the beginning of the month, taking the lead away from Harris, who was the favorite throughout most of September. And looking at the polls, things again don't get any better. For the vice president, Trump leads by 0.3% and is ahead in the vast majority of surveys conducted over the last 3 weeks. If we look at how the average has changed over the last few months, yes, Trump was ahead by quite a bit when Harris first entered the race, but the election in Pennsylvania has always been competitive, even when Joe Biden was still in the race. But considering just how much Trump has been underestimated here in the past, with him now leading in the polls, it is extremely likely that he is going to win Pennsylvania, and based on the betting markets, it is currently a lean Republican state. Moving down to the southeast, we're going to begin up in Virginia, where Kamala Harris is the favorite. No Republican has won the state since George W. Bush, but that doesn't mean that Trump can't get close. In terms of winning the state outright, it is unlikely he is going to do that. In fact, he has just a 13% chance of actually carrying the Commonwealth of Virginia, which generally has been shifting to the right over the last few years. According to the polls, Harris leads by just under 7 points. It's probably going to be a lean Harris state when all all is said and done, she's probably going to win it by 2 to 4 points. But Virginia is definitely going to be a lot more competitive than it was in 2020 when Joe Biden won it by a double-digit margin. And I believe that Virginia can be one of the biggest surprises of this election cycle, especially after Republicans won the governorship, the lieutenant governorship, and the office of the attorney general back in 2021. And so for now, it's going to be likely blue based on the betting markets, but it's definitely a race to watch. And then in North Carolina, Trump is the clear favorite. There's no doubt he is going to win it. The betting markets give him a 62% chance to win. But if you look at the polls, I mean, he is up by a commanding lead. He leads by 1.4% on average. But if you look at the actual surveys, he is ahead in every single one of them. It's not a single recent poll that has Kamala Harris leading in the Tar Heel state. Trump has been ahead in the average throughout the entirety of 2024, whether it was against Harris or against Biden. And the betting markets do seem to agree that Trump is going to win. The only reason why his odds are not higher is because of Mark Robinson, the candidate for governor, who is fighting a lot of scandals, and he is definitely going to hurt Trump in the state, but not nearly enough to make him actually lose the state. What's more is that polling in North Carolina has always favored Democrats. They always predicted that the state was going to be able to flip blue. Clinton was supposed to win by 3.3 in 2016, Biden by 2.8 in 2020, and on both of those occasions, Trump won North Carolina. It's the only swing state he won in both of the last two elections, and this time he is going to win it for a third time. North Carolina, based on Polymarket, is going to be lean red. Trump's also doing very well down in Georgia, and you might be seeing a theme here. Yes, Trump's performance has been incredible. Just 2 weeks ago, he was supposed to lose states like Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan. A month ago, he was also supposed to lose states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina. But now, with less than 20 days to go, Trump is surging in the most perfect moment possible. The odds in Georgia currently have Trump as the clear favorite. He has a 64% chance of winning the state. His odds have been slowly rising since Harris peaked in mid-August during the Democratic convention. And the polls have Trump leading as well. He's ahead by 0.7, leads in most of the surveys conducted over the last 3 weeks. There was only a very short period of time where Harris led. This is basically when she peaked in late August and early September, but ever since then, Trump has held on to a slight advantage. Georgia is actually a state that Trump didn't even win in the last election, but today he has become the clear favorite. Georgia is also going to be lean Republican. And finally, in Florida, we have a state where Democrats are, for some reason, starting to pump money into. They suddenly think that maybe they can actually win Florida, but that is never going to happen. Florida is a red state. It may not be solid red, but it is at least within the likely Republican column. The markets currently have Harris at just a 10% chance of winning. Florida is a state that Trump won in both of the last two elections, and both times, pundits said that Democrats were going to win the Sunshine State. In 2016, they were wrong. Trump won by 1.2%. In 2020, they were even more wrong. Trump actually won by a larger 3.4% margin. Polling today has the former president leading by 6.1%. In fact, the most recent New York Times poll shows Trump leading by a whopping 14 points, nearly a solid margin, a state that was decided by a tilt margin in favor of Trump just 8 years ago. And so there's no doubt on anyone's minds. I don't know why Democrats are thinking they can suddenly win the state now. They can't. Florida is going to vote for Trump once again. It is going to be likely red on the map based on Polymarket's forecast. And so with the map now filled in, Trump is on track to win every single swing state. And if you're wondering why, this is exactly why. Trump leads by 0.7 in the battlegrounds. He is ahead in every single swing state except for Wisconsin, where he is going to take the lead fairly soon. Kamala Harris is slipping in the polls. She is slipping in support, and that is why the markets are moving away from her so suddenly. In fact, just today, she lost 2.7%. Trump gained that exact amount, so Trump's lead widened by a whopping 5.4 percentage points today. Trump, once again, has a 58% chance of winning the 2024 election on the map. He's on track to win 312 electoral votes. Kamala Harris at just 226. This is what I've been saying for months now. Trump is probably going to win all of the swing states. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe right now for more content like this leading up to the election in November. And follow me on Twitter for daily political updates. Link in the description below.